Good day all. Welcome to the NBS Seminar. The purpose for this seminar is to firstly welcome each of the new creators that we have assigned to current and upcoming shows. This is so important to the Ministry of Communications because it means that the deputies and the Minister of Communications don't have to be everywhere in order to run NBS. It's something that's just physically impossible on our parts and should not be expected of the executive staff members. That said, once we distribute the work among everyone within the ministry, it means that we can actually radically change the way NBS is run, and it means that we can produce vastly more content than we were doing before. So while there will still be regular NBS news shows, we're trying to extend this to the town halls, for instance, of what we recorded this morning, or Bootsy Radio that we're importing from some of the older shows that Bootsy did, to newer shows, including, a discussion of what's going on the R&B, or political news, or quizzes, or, just fun things like that. And we're trying to bring NBS to the forefront of NS Radio. It's something that's competitive, perhaps, with Europea's EBC Radio. We're trying to make this, a real thing, and boost our audience, and get up on different platforms that are available to us. So this is critical to our efforts, and it does mean that each of these creators should be knowledgeable on how to record their own audio and then potentially edit that audio for quality purposes. This particular video will focus only on the audio recording side rather than the video editing side, because the video editing side is a little bit more in detail, and it takes a lot more effort, a substantial amount more effort. So the way we're going to run, at least for this term, is that anyone who needs help with setting up a recording and broadcasting can request for assistance from the Ministry of Communications, and either myself or one of my deputies will help out and make that recording possible. That said, there will be a day when I'm not around anymore to help with these sort of projects, and my ministers, my deputy ministers, will also likely have moved on at some point. What that means is that in order for this to become a sustainable program that will have long-lasting meaning for the future of the North Pacific, people need to know how to make their own audio, and this will help make everything more smooth for the near future. So, with that aside, I'd like to get into how to do this sort of recording. The first thing that you're going to want to have is either Audacity or OBS Studio on your computer. Audacity is a simple audio-only software that allows you to record both yourself and others, and it works with Discord as well, which is quite useful. That said, I personally find that it is a little bit more difficult to use that software than it is to use OBS. And as such, I'll be teaching primarily OBS Studio. I'll get into Audacity in a future video when I discuss how to edit the sound, because I prefer to do it there rather than in a typical film editor. So OBS is an open source software product that is available for several different operating systems, including Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And on Windows, it's available for Windows 7, 8, and 10. When you get it, you just download and install the executable file, and when you finally open it up, you get OBS that looks like this. The reason why you can see this tunnel effect is because I currently have it to capture my display, and currently I'm looking at OBS. So it's going to have this weird effect. Once you get into OBS Studio, there are a number of things to pay attention to. First off, your screen will likely look black rather than this. The reason for this is because I have it set to display my screen. Typically, you'll have to add a source first, and then look through the options and find one that is amenable to you. So those options include the display capture, they include images and slideshows and videos and so forth. I personally prefer display capture because it captures everything, not just the browser, but also Discord if that's something that I'm interested in. And overall, I think it's probably the most versatile option. But you want to make sure that your desktop is clear from clutter and that you don't have any private things that you don't want to show your viewers. When it comes to the actual recording, there's two different types, basically. There's desktop audio, and then you have your microphone. Desktop audio is anything that your computer produces sound-wise. So that could be, a video that you're playing, or if you're speaking on Discord over a voice chat, and there's others speaking on that voice chat, desktop audio will pick that up. Unfortunately, it will also pick up any other sounds that your computer makes, like a notification from Slack, or a friend request on Facebook or something that's popping up. That will make a little pinging noise if you have your settings set that way, and so you do have to be a little careful with it. The microphone will default to whatever your computer's microphone is, so if you have a more advanced microphone that you plug in or use in some way like that, or a headset, for instance, you're going to have to go into the settings and make sure that that is set accordingly. I highly recommend that you use a different microphone than your computer's default. It's not bad if you don't have that option, but basically the sound quality can only go up from there. When it comes to making sure that those settings are correctly set, wow, that was a poor sentence, you go to the settings option here. A guide to the setup procedure, which I have posted under the Communications and then Northern Broadcast Service forums on the Offsite forums. This information is pretty helpful because it works, it just sort of walks you through each step of the way to making sure that you have everything that is needed. So when it comes to the settings, on the side you'll have General, you'll have Stream, Output, Audio, Video, Hotkeys, and Advanced. I personally prefer working with the Audio and Hotkeys settings, and I find these to be the most important. The reason why audio is important is clearly you need to make sure that your mic is operating correctly and that sound is being recorded as it should. Your desktop audio device, this is what you want sound to be recorded from. So if you have a headset, for instance, you have to select headset here because otherwise it will record sound as coming from your computer's speakers, which is the default. So if you have a headset set up, your speakers won't actually be playing, and if you have this set on default, then it won't actually be recording any noise. So you have to have it set to headset, because if your headset is connected, then not only will you hear it, but NBS will hear it. OBS will hear it. If you don't have a headset and instead just use your computer's speakers or an external speaker device, make sure that that is instead selected. Under mic or auxiliary audio device, this is your computer's microphone by default, which is fine, but the audio quality can only go up from there. So if you have a plug-and-play microphone on the cheap end, like I have, or a more fancy audio recording device, this is where you would set that file. Additionally, you can enable push-to-talk here, and the reason why push-to-talk is so important is because unlike Discord, where Discord automatically detects whether or not you're speaking, and thus will turn off the ability to broadcast your voice when you're not speaking, OBS doesn't have that setting. So when you broadcast with OBS, if you don't have push-to-talk enabled, it means that your microphone will pick up all the background noises, whether you like it or not. That could be, you sitting uncomfortably in your chair and shifting around your body mass so that there's creaking. It could be birds chirping outside, or the sound of the street, cars are passing. It could be roommates talking in another room, or the refrigerator humming, or the neighbor operating a lawnmower. And the list can go on. And normally you wouldn't hear these sounds. You sort of fizz them out of your life. You fade them out so that you don't have to hear them all the time. But when you do an audio recording, you become much more aware of background noises as they occur, and it can definitely affect the clarity of your broadcast. So this is something that you should be careful of, and I highly recommend, I cannot stress this enough, that you should have enabled push to talk. Then you're going to want to make this set to a different to a certain hotkey. So you go to hotkeys, and you can set your push to mute, which is interesting, but personally, push to talk is the most important. You have to make sure that this is set such that this is an option that you can have. I have it set to my left key, although currently I think I'm actually using the Z key. You want to make sure that this is a key that isn't used by another critical function, at least during the time when you're doing your broadcast. And you're going to want to make sure that it's set back to something standard afterwards if you're using something unusual. Additionally, when you're in Discord, it makes sense to have push to talk enabled in Discord as well. This is not necessarily something that you want. Let's say you wanted to say something off the record on Discord, but you didn't want it to be recorded by OBS, then you could have voice activity activated on Discord rather than push to talk. But if you are going to use push to talk, it's very helpful to use the same shortcut and make sure that this is put in correctly. I don't recommend having any push to talk release delays because this means that if you set this as to any sort of positive value, it means that your voice will sound clipped at the beginning and it might not catch the first thing that you say. Additionally, in Discord, you're going to want to make sure that your microphone is picked up and your audio device, your output headset, or whatever you're using is also in place. If you don't use this, then you might not hear what's going on in the VC, even if OBS is able to record it. And then once you have those settings, you're essentially good to go. There's a few other things that you want to make sure that you're considering. When it comes to voice channels, the NBS voice channel on Discord will always be available to you, but you must make them confirm that they can hear you and that you can hear them loudly and clearly. That's important before any broadcast. And let's say you set a given time to have a VC at, say, noon. You might want to show up, 15 to 20 minutes earlier to make sure that your settings on OBS and Discord are functioning properly, and to make sure that your audio and any of your guests' audio is loud and clear and being picked up by OBS. Once you're ready to start making a recording, in OBS, you'll go to Start Recording is what it'll say. And when you're done, you'll hit Stop Recording. This will automatically save the file and it will show up over here. This is the sort of the videos tab in your PC, and it will have each of the videos that you've created with OBS and any other videos. You'll find the right one, and then once you're done with that, you have to find some way of sending it to the Ministry of Communications of the North Pacific. There are two ways you can go about doing this. The first is to send it via email to comms.thenorthpacific@gmail.com. The alternative method is to send it via Dropbox, and I will send you the link to that Dropbox if you send me a personal message via DM. In order for Dropbox to be activated, however, you do have to share an email address with me, and if you're uncomfortable doing this, I recommend creating a sort of an NS email address, something for your nation, so that you can operate it from there. Once that's done, as long as the audio file has been received by the Ministry of Communications, we can do any audio editing that is needed to ensure that there's consistent volume and loud enough volume for everyone to hear. And then we'll upload it to the NBS YouTube channel after it has been reviewed and approved by the Ministry of Communications. I will say that when it comes to the current assignments and upcoming shows, I don't expect there to be any problems with these, but I want to hold that judgment for the time when audio files are being received by the ministry, because we don't want anything that isn't representative of the North Pacific going out onto the world stage. While NBS is a little bit more informal than, say, the Northern Lights is, or even the North Star is, it is still one of the ways in which we present ourselves to the world, so it is important that we are both respectful of others and ourselves, and that we take that care into account when we're making these recordings. I would hope that they're as professional as possible, that they remain respectful, and that at all times we're making sure that we're showing our best selves to the world. With that aside, though, that will conclude this tutorial for how to set up NBS and OBS on your computer to make sure that everything is working properly. That said, in a future video, I will also discuss how to do audio editing with Audacity, and how to use Wondershare Filmora, which is the film editing tool that I use. And then I'll also demonstrate how to upload that content to YouTube. As well as for my deputies, I might also create a video on how to monitor the channel, make sure that everything is operating correctly, put on, subtitles, and then categorize the shows by playlist and so forth. Most of that is fairly self-explanatory because YouTube has such an excellent UI, but maybe that's something that I'll cover in a future episode. So with that, thanks for your time and have a nice day. Goodbye.